Hello everyone and welcome to my channel RPG Retro Reviews, where I, Captain Courageous, review old school modules and games, reveal fun trivia, and do my best to give them a fun and informative analysis. This week I'm taking a look at a new OSR release, The City of Brass from Frog God Games. This is actually part 2 of a 3-part review. If you haven't already watched part 1, you might want to go and watch that first and then come back. Also, a little spoiler warning, I will be giving away some details about this module, so if you are a player and want to avoid the spoilers, just direct your DM to this video and hope maybe they might run for your group. Still with me? Okay, let's just jump right in. Book 1, Cult of the Burning One, was a series of adventures that reveal the peril of the player character's homeworld from the Sultan of the Ifrit in the City of Brass and his cult of worshippers of the Burning One. Book 2 sees the PCs arriving at the plane of Molten Skies, a nexus formed from the 3 elemental planes of fire, earth, and air. It is here that the City of Brass resides, and it is here that the Sultan's schemes are hatched and enacted. In Chapter 9, Agents, Factions, and Foes, we are introduced to the many different organizations and NPCs that will both oppose and hinder the player characters, and in some cases aid them in their efforts to intervene in the Sultan's schemes. The first major NPC we are introduced to is probably the most important to this series, the vile and evil Lich and Grand Vizier to the Sultan, Jedafar. But the PCs will probably know him in his guise, Rapode, the Grand Vizier's alter ego, before they come to know him as their true enemy, for he is actually a major quest giver in the story. Rapode schemes against the Sultan with hopes of one day usurping his power, and if he learns of the player characters, he will definitely seek to manipulate them to help bring about the Sultan's downfall. Rapode resides in the Cursed Tower, and ultimately the entire campaign will probably culminate with a final confrontation with Jedafar in his Grand Tower. But for now, the Vizier will attempt to manipulate the PCs through an intermediary, a goblin named Dawson the Handsome. There are many factions within the city, and in order to defeat them and unseat the Sultan, the Vizier seeks many items held by them. The Carnelian Idol will grant the Vizier power over a great undead army. The masks of Anki held in the Pyramid of Set and the vile tomb, the Book of Al-Hazred, are just some of the items that Dawson might hire the PCs to recover for his evil master. Jedafar is the Ming the Merciless of this adventure, the big bad, the puppeteer behind the scenes, and this subplot will probably be driving the story for many game sessions before the players discover what's really going on. Next is Ard, leader of the people, with the people being a cult of worshippers who venerate the Church of the Lightbringer, an evil cult with a mission to lift the banishment of the Prince of Darkness from the City of Brass. Ard serves as another potential quest giver, as the PCs become involved in the politics and the powers that be in the City of Brass. Then there is the revolutionary Chufa Sofani. Chufa seeks heroes to help her rise up against the Sultan, and she too can serve as a quest giver, as the various factions seek to consolidate items of power to use against the ruling powers. There is Fad al-Anil, an interdimensional clan of thieves and assassins that can work for or against the efforts of the PCs. And of course, the Cult of the Burning One, those who worship the Sultan of the City of Brass as a god, and the one whose actions brought the PCs to the city to begin with. There is the Dark Elf emissary, Fatavdra, who acts as an assisting hand to the Sultan, but of course has duplicitous motives of her own. Finally, there's the Sultan himself, Namalus al-Kabith. He is the big bad in the City of Brass, and the absolute ruler of the plane of Molten Skies and beyond. He seeks to elevate himself legitimately to the status of a god, and he plays the game as well, attempting to manipulate the other factions against each other in a deadly game of political intrigue and deception. Thus, the DM can have a lot of fun with this, as the PCs come to the City of Brass utterly ignorant of the rat's nest they are stepping into, and become pawns in the city's political machinations. The next chapter is the Plane of Molten Skies, and it is here that the environmental conditions and effects are laid out for the referee. This is where some of the gamey aspects of traversing through the plane are detailed, and will be different depending on whether you get the 5th edition version or the Swords and Wizardry version. For this review, I'm simply going to detail the Swords and Wizardry rules, as that reflects the interest of the channel. Now, for me, my impressions on what it would be like to simply walk through the City of Brass comes from the 1st edition booklet, the Manual of the Planes. While that book did not specifically invoke the City of Brass, there was a picture of the fabled city on the first page of the chapter that laid out the game parameters for characters going to the elemental plane of fire. Essentially, without some sort of fire protection, characters traveling to the City of Brass will die from the heat pretty quickly. In this module, that's not the case. The City of Brass is located at a nexus point between the plane of fire, earth, and air. So yes, it's hot, but it's tolerable. The heat dangers in the Plane of Molten Skies entail a saving throw every day, or take 1d4 points of damage from the excessive heat, or at least for the first 1d6 plus 2 days until the characters acclimate to the climate. Heavy armor and clothing invoke a -4 penalty to the save. The city itself is a comfortable 101 degrees Fahrenheit, though various places can be much higher. Of course, there are places where magical items that offset the heat can be purchased. Of course, there is the requisite volcanoes, burning skies and rivers, seas of liquid fire, and other natural wonders throughout the plane. Ash storms are a hazard as well, obscuring sight and making breathing difficult. Heat storms, magma storms, and lava pools pose hazards to those traveling outside the city as well. So this chapter, in addition to giving some details about the city, goes to great length to detail the various features and hazards of the plane itself, and a stunning map of the plane is provided. This chapter does a great job of giving the referee the tools they need to impress upon the players just how bizarre and weird this plane of existence is. Chapter 11 details the Bazaar of Beggars located outside the city itself, and the sprawl of tents and ramshackle lean-tos where those waiting for admittance to the city can purchase supplies and some of those coveted magical items that will help characters withstand the heat of the place. Various NPCs and shops are detailed here. There are some really interesting shops, and the place is a gathering for peoples and creatures from all planes of existence. Think Mos Eisley Spaceport. In addition to the usual goods and services, there are casinos to gamble in, Kanbatsu's tattoo shop, Axum's forge, or the Tent of 1,000 Illusions, where citizens can pay to get temporary relief from the blistering heat of the Plane of Molten Skies. Finally, Chapter 12, we get a nice overview of the City of Brass itself. The city is built upon a massive brass bowl that rests upon the plane of fire. Upon entering, the visitor is greeted to the grandeur and majesty of the upper city, with its many massive minaret spires, the ziggurat al-Nar, and the great palace of the Sultan itself. The chapter deals with the character of the city, its religion of Sultan worship, and the grand bureaucracy that makes everything run. The operational aspects of the city are detailed, such as the currency, the Sultan's law, and the hazards of being sold into slavery. Chapter 13 goes into more detail on the upper city. The various districts and the tenants are shown, which details such things as the district of the foreign gods, where one will find the Pyramid of Set, the Pagoda of Devils, and the Cathedral of the Lightbringer. Chapter 14 details the middle city, which is basically one massive bazaar of the bazaar. The usual kinds of pleasure shops, torture shops, narcotics houses, and all manner of dark desires and debauchery are catered to here. However, the exotic taste of those that hail from all corners of existence are catered to, as well as a cacophony of weird, strange, and peculiar things. Never will you find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. Finally, in Chapter 15, the lower city is detailed. Also called the basin as it rests in the bottom of the bowl, this is the dirty, grimy, seedy underbelly of the city of brass. Here, Azar slaves toil unceasingly on the city's building projects. And in addition, one will find low-rent inns, seedy taverns, brothels, and kasbahs can be found in abundance. The slave trade thrives and is in full operation here, as every race from 1,000 realms are chained up to serve their effete masters. Woe be to the ones who run afoul of the law in the city of brass. For if death and dismemberment is not to be meted out, then in all likelihood the offender will find themselves in chains to be auctioned off to the highest bidder. And there you have it, a complete overview of the city of brass and its various factions. Of course, the devil is in the details, and these chapters go into great detail with a massive amount of information on the various shops and the NPCs who run them. Here alone are the seeds of 1,000 stories that assure that a campaign in the city could go on for years. So that's it for now in this massive review. Part 3 finishes things up as I take a look at Book 3, Tales of Brass. In this final book, 15 different major locales within the city are given full detailed write-ups and maps. Coming up next week. Later on this week, I'll have more old school reviews for you. I'm going to open up the box of my Hollow World box set and take a fun look back at one of my absolute favorite campaigns locations in all of Mystara. Please don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell so you can get notifications when I upload more content. Like, comment, and share. Join the RPG Retro Review Facebook group and consider supporting the channel by becoming a Patreon. As always, my friends, may your D20 roll true and game on.